Sit, talk to me, damn it, or else I'm gonna throw you in the fire!
You stupid bitch, you filthy...
Flyover State of Fear. Welcome back to Flyover State of Fear, and I have a great guest with me this week, Courtland from Up All Night, a Horror Anthology Podcast. Hey, Courtland, how's it going? Thanks for coming on.
Hi, Joe. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah. So Courtland, as we learned in our pre-show just now, shares a real mutual interest of his whole podcast is about my favorite children's anthology horror. Specifically, you guys did all of Are You for the Dark, and you're in Goosebumps now. So what's up? What's up, Courtland? Yeah. Good.
All 100 episodes. Yeah. I mean, they just had a new season last year, actually, and they're going to be having another one soon if you haven't seen them yet.
It did get picked up.
It did, yeah. They had a reboot in 2019, and then they did a second season of the reboot in 2021.
I was a really big fan of that 2019 reboot. I thought it was so well done and like creepy and like a good way to come like rejoin it all in.
Yeah.
I bought the sequel season and I have not finished it. Like Curse of the Werewolf or something. No.
Curse of what's it called? Curse of the Shadows is what
I didn't finish it.
It's good. It's good.
So once again, thanks for joining me.
Of course.
Tell me tell us just a little about yourself and the podcast. And
yeah. Well, my name's Courtland. I'm a millennial, of course. I have the most millennial thing imaginable here. I'm an Are You Afraid of the Dark podcast.
That is the first podcast I ever tried to get off the ground was a Are You Afraid of the Dark podcast.
That's amazing.
That is lost to time on an iPhone somewhere.
I love it. Yeah, we started the whole thing. It'll be 3 years in April, I believe, for us, for the show.
Congrats.
So thank you. Yeah, I know it's hard to get that far with podcasts. There's so many out there, and sometimes people just don't stick with them, unfortunately. But
Are You Afraid of the Dark's an interesting one because I have it. It's how I discovered your podcast.
Yeah.
I have looked it up, and it's weird. It's an odd one to have a podcast for because like the concept's so there.
Yeah.
The execution's never like I don't know any by name, so I'm not throwing anyone over the bus. But the execution wasn't there. It was like we could sit around and talk about this show, and then it was like. Okay, and this is just, like I said, on the 3 I had listened to or whatever, it was like, okay, you guys need to get over the hump of just criticizing their clothing. It's 1993. Like, there's more to this episode.
It's fun. So, the whole reason we started things out is because my co-host, he actually lives in Australia. He used to live here in Michigan with me, but he moved. And I was having some hard times, like, connecting with him. With the distance and stuff. So I was like, hey, I started listening to podcasts a couple of years ago. I was like, hey, do you want to start a podcast? And he was like, yeah, I guess. And we were going to do, shit horror movies and just make fun of them and stuff and have a good time with it. But we were like, you know what? I was like, I love this show growing up. I haven't seen it in like a decade or more. Let's do Are You Afraid of the Dark? So we found the episodes on Daily Motion and we just kind of went with it.
There's a few up there.
Yeah, that's how we had watched it originally. I ended up, buying seasons and stuff for it. But it's fun because, like, that's how our show started, too, is that we were just kind of talking shit about these kids doing their best. And it didn't feel right, So we started to find things that we really loved about it and appreciated it. So probably about the 6th episode or something, we just kind of, like, switched gears and enjoyed the show for what it is.
That's where you find that
the artistry in it. There's amazing things going on in that show.
So you're currently watching, and then we'll just get this out of the way before as you could tell, I could talk this series specifically for all 4 hours. So I always found that, the two that could compare. You're currently in the midst of Goosebumps.
Yeah.
and you've done all Are You for the Dark, and I think you said there's a lot more to it. I always found Are You for the Dark has there's better episodes than there's bad episodes. I found right. I think there's writing strong on a lot of them.
Yeah.
I always found the Goosebumps TV show episodes, except for a few, and I've watched most of Goosebumps as well. Even though they share the same casts for the most part, same filming locations, it's not as strong as a show, and they don't have as many iconic episodes. I mean, this is a guy who has, you can't see my backgrounds, but a Goosebumps blanket hanging up side by side from Creepy Company. So that's just what I always found, and I wonder if that's true or just me having nostalgia goggles on.
I think universally people think that Are You Afraid of the Dark is just like a creepier kids horror show. It's funny. I actually did an interview with the co-creator of Are You Afraid of the Dark, DJ McHale, and one of the things he had talked with us about is how he didn't want the show just to be straight scary the whole time. So he's got those episodes that are
fantasy,
like Tale of the Dollmaker, for example. We talked about that in the pre-show. Like, I love that episode because there's not really a bad guy. It's just kind of like this situation that the kids have to get out of themselves. Or go ahead.
Oh, no, sorry. It was my all-time favorite episode. I don't know what we're talking about because of the diversity of it.
Oh, I wanted to ask you what your favorite was.
Okay, it's the Night Shift.
Night Shift is so good. Yeah, and that's a horrifying episode.
It's scary. They didn't pull on punches on the villain, on the monster. But then I'm gonna think about what my favorite non-horror episode is. That's there's not villain because there's a lot of them. I mean,
I know I can tell you. Shiny Bike is fantastic.
Yeah.
It's a little dated, unfortunately. Just kind of like that 90s mindset of when we watched it, it was like, oh, this dad is making fun of his child for having these traumatic things in his life and seeing ghosts and stuff. And it was like, that is incredibly 90s. That's not how it would fly today. But I can say one of my favorite episodes that isn't scary, really at all, is the Tale of the Full Moon from season 2.
Oh, is that the one with the brother? Brother's a werewolf?
Yeah. Yeah. It's just so that is one of the episodes that is directed and written by Ron Oliver, who did direct some Goosebumps episodes too. Night of the Living Dummy 2. He did that one.
Okay.
He's just got this Ron Oliver charm, as we like to call it on our show, where it's just silly but fun, and I don't know. There's just something about it.
And the Haunted Mask are the two that I'm okay, Goosebumps, you have good episodes, and the rest,
yeah.
I do want to, before we move on, and I'll mention this because the movie you picked today, Return of the Living Dead 2, reminds me a lot of that era of Goosebumps and Are You for the Dark as well. And this was a first watch for me. So, if anyone is listening though, and you are looking for a modern Are You for the Dark itch, that has some really creepy episodes. There's 2 shows. One is R.L. Stein's The Haunting Hour, the TV series.
Yeah.
I unfortunately have to purchase them on Amazon. They're not a good streaming option, but they have some really creepy episodes. One of those ones for a tween, and the other one is Netflix has a show called, I believe it's Creeped Out.
I've heard of that too. Yeah.
Another just good little YA anthology series. So I could talk children's horror anthology.
I know, it's so good. It's the beautiful thing about it is it's such a good gateway to create horror fans. What I loved about Are You Afraid of the Dark and Goosebumps right now is that I do live watch parties on Wednesdays of the episodes we cover on the show, and I always have my son with me. He's 7. And
fantastic!
He loves them. He loves horror. I'm just crafting him into a little horror person because my wife doesn't watch horror movies with me. She watched this one, but
for everyone who's listening, if you listen to every episode, I say it every episode. My wife, I talk about her way too much. She does not listen to horror movie or watch horror movies at all. Although for what we watched today, I was like, you can come in and sit down. It's not going to bother you. And she saw one look like puppets, and she was fine. Having said that, which is a good segue in, what is your horror origin story? That's kind of a basis question of this show.
I would have to say it's Are You Afraid of the Dark for me. I mean, I was the kid that when did it air? Let me look at 1991. I mean, I was 2 years old, so I was a little young for that. But I remember being up on Saturday night for Snick and watching Are You Afraid of the Dark with the family. I vividly remember the Tale of the Guardian's Curse airing and watching it with my mom and my dad and everything. So
I've
that was definitely it. But another fun thing, I don't know if you did this or not, but going into movie stores back when we used to rent movies at, Family Video and all that stuff, just walking down the horror aisle and just looking at all the covers for
I did
horror
that and
movies.
be like kind of scared of them and like run
Yeah.
but intrigued. Oh, absolutely. And the one that stands out to everyone, I still haven't even seen it. I have a horror podcast, but I don't know. I haven't seen a lot. Is Dead Alive, right?
Yes, I
Dead
was gonna
Alive, the
say
one,
Dead Alive.
like
Yes, it is.
everyone. I mean, there's a consistent. Doesn't matter who you are. The Dead Alive cover, you might not even know that's the name. I told you it's someone holding open and there's a demon looking through
Yeah.
it. So that's great. Yeah, no, Art for the Dark was huge for me. I have a brother's 4 years older, and yeah, he really that's him and my cousins. We all watched that, and then
Mhm.
it always felt like good gateway horror because it took a while
Right.
to get to others and like more advanced. But it was like I have this, and it would freak me out, but it's palpable. The one that oh man, there's so many episodes that I've seen since that I also have false memories of, like
Mhm.
the one of the girl who keeps getting the acne and the ugly.
Yeah. Tale of the Vacant Lot.
Yeah, that one stuck with me. Like I always remember that one a lot. And that's one where it was more of like my memory was stronger than the actual episode. But the Night
Happens.
Shift is a vivid one. Watching it on Snick on Halloween,
Mhm.
and then maybe 12 years after its release, right? My 8th grade or so, rewatching it and be like, no, that's still scary. And
Yeah.
it stars
Crazy.
Sloane from Entourage. Like,
The cool part, like that is the original series finale for the show, so they just went all out on it.
wait, really?
Yeah, that
I
was
didn't know
episode
that.
65 out of 65 for it.
I did not know that. Yeah, because and then I actually remember the Art for the Dark revival pretty well. Because we were a little older, and when it came back, and it has a few good episodes, but nothing, no real standouts on that revival.
No, I think it's worth watching, but it's not like
The
anything to
Wendigo,
really write home about.
the Wendigo episode's pretty good, but
I do like that one. People
yeah.
seem to not enjoy that one, but I think it's creepy as hell.
That's why I think there's nothing really happens, but it's creepy. But
I'm
yes.
sorry.
No,
I could legit talk about Are You Afraid of the Dark forever.
Yeah,
I mean,
I truly it's a comfort show for me too. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on here is this fun perspective of because people remember the show, but I also think for some people, and this might be a little rude, their memory should stay their memory and they shouldn't revisit Are You Afraid of the Dark or shows
nah.
it. Some people can't handle being just accepting that it's okay, it's still good, but it's not going to scare you. You don't expect it to.
Even at its worst, it's still so much fun to watch.
Yeah.
There's so much love in that show. They got to do what they wanted with it, and they being able to see the directors figuring out new ways to do things is just so much fun to watch. Like as an adult.
My least favorite episode, I'm gonna keep doing this whole show, even when we get into the movie. And it's a popular one too, is the iguana sister episode.
That's a dark episode.
I know
you
it's
don't like
dark.
That one.
It's weird. It's dark in story and ending, but it's filmed so light that it's like I don't know. It never clicked with me.
Oh. See, we use that episode anytime there's
never clicked with me.
With the last episode last week we did Let's Get Invisible, where there's twins and stuff. We're always anytime there's twins or something, we're always this would be better if it was Tia and Tamara.
Well, that's true. They are standouts in it.
Tour de force right there. Yeah.
But I don't know. That's the one that maybe because it's the popular one that I could point to that I'm not as a fan of. But yeah, they're gonna come through to me. One also that I like when I listen to your episode today about it, and it sucks because it's a better episode than it's given credit for, but it's not the best. It's the Badge episode, and I think I always just liked.
Yeah.
I always just liked the makeup. I think
the makeup is so good. Yeah.
Yeah. That other than that, it is. But I'm the makeup and the guy running around. I'm I get it.
He went all in. He was Badge. That actor went for it.
That and the old Greg episode, which the Dead Man's Float.
Oh yeah.
Those creatures remind me of that old Greg sketch. It kind of actually remind me of Return of the Living Dead.
A bit, yeah.
What you picked today. So anyway, that's we could just talk Ari for the Dark and Goosebumps for another hour and say Return of the Living Dead was good, but no. Courtland came on today to talk Return of the Living Dead Part 2.
Yeah.
And as I've already said, this is a first watch. This is actually, I've never seen the first Return of the Living Dead.
Oh, you haven't?
This week, or previous week, when I was watching, I knocked them out. And it's funny how just different they both are.
Yes.
But,
yeah.
So I'm going to read, I copied and pasted it.
Okay.
I'm going to read the synopsis that Google has. And yeah, it's either going to be accurate or no nonsense. It's one sentence, and it's
Okay.
A mysterious gas brings the dead back to life in this brain-munching sequel inspired by George Romero's zombie trilogy. That's the synopsis you get. It gives you nothing.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's the ongoing thing. It's either like, we did Scream recently, and that was similar. It was like, movie that changed the landscape of horror. Iconic Wes Craven. It's like, that's not a synopsis. But that's the movie. Personally, like I said, I had not seen it. I knew about it. And first, I was real quick. We want to talk about the first one and how
sure. We can watch it.
Jarringly different it is in tone.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, the first one's it's different than, say, Night of the Living Dead, but it is just like, it changed the way zombies were. I think that's where zombies eat brains came from in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one consistency of the brains and like the humor in there, and then like it has that cool heavy metal look to it where they have everyone they're all punks, and then like it's extreme violence and nudity and this melting pot of works. And what I was reading about it, that first one is kind of annoying. It's kind of shitty in the sense that Romero and company credit Land of the Dead for flopping, because Return of the Living Dead came out like 2 months prior and did like kind of okay numbers, but not really.
Oh, do you mean Day of the Dead?
Day of the Dead. I'm sorry, not Land of the Dead.
Sorry.
Yeah, I know you're.
I almost picked Day of the Dead because that's probably my favorite zombie movie.
I just picked that up on
I love that movie.
on the Shout Factory.
Joe, I love it.
Yeah, no, I picked it up on Shout Factory, and then big bucket list got crossed off today. The Dawn of the Dead on physical media. Finally got my hands on one, and
that used to be such a rare movie to me. The reason I pick zombie movies is I love zombies.
Okay.
My first experience with zombies was from like Resident Evil, on the PlayStation. Like that first FMV where the zombie turns around. I was like, well, let me back up a little bit. I actually used to play Zombies Ate My Neighbors on the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis.
Zombies Ate My Neighbors, yeah.
Yeah, that game of all games used to give me nightmares, and I don't know. From then on, I was just a zombie fanatic.
I'm a zombie light. I don't have the love for it as everyone, but I respect it. My first like turning point, and you could credit to my horror origin story, would be though the 2004 Dawn of the Dead remake, because I went to the movies to see it, and it was the first horror movie I saw that I was like, oh, these could be funny. Like, we were laughing, and it actually gave us a little too much confidence for like a bunch of 12-year-olds of like what we can watch.
Yeah.
Because then I've said it before in the show, then I've watched like a month or two later House of a Thousand Corpses and was traumatized because I was like, well, all horror is funny now.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm surprised, actually. I've never seen either of these Return of the Living Dead movies because of that, because that was like that Dawn of the Dead was like, yeah, this is sweet. So, but people credit that one with zombies running, but these two movies have running zombies in them.
Yeah, I don't know if this is Return of the Living Dead 1, if it's the first time they did running zombies, but they're the worst zombies you could kind of come up against, because not only do they run, but they're like indestructible in these movies.
This one especially, and both. That's the one thing these two movies share, and we can move, well into the story in a second.
Yeah.
Yeah, that they have the same look of zombie, the same horror comedy, right? These like puppets, and they kind of have the zombies coming in both Return of the Living Dead's just in swarms eventually, where they are running, but they're also swarms. They're a little smarter.
Yes, they're a bit smarter. They do talk a bit too.
Yeah, the comedy is really, really there. Be full transparent. I didn't like my watch of Return of the Living Dead. Did not really like it, and what we're about to talk about, part 2, I did like it.
Okay, cool.
I found a lot of fun in it. So part 2's back, and part 1 ends partly, which I do love the ending of it though, because they just essentially nuked the town, and like that's it. Day's done. So you spend your whole time with all antagonists who are going to die anyway.
Yeah, never really enjoyed that kind of movie style where everybody dies at the end. I feel like it's kind of like, oh well, just wasted my time. But Return of the Living Dead makes it fun because the characters are cool.
Yeah, the Return of the Living Dead. I mean, that's one of the ones where like I don't think I'm as critical as that ending as I think I am to the Star Wars. They did it in a couple years ago.
Dude, that's
right?
what I keep that in mind. I'm like, just like Return of the Living Dead.
Yeah, it's like, all right, that's a cheap out. Why am I watching a Star Wars movie where
spoilers?
Yeah, sorry for anyone trying to see Rogue.
Yeah, right.
So I'm gonna, if you're listening to a podcast, I'm just gonna a movie podcast that it's horror. I'm just gonna assume you have seen those Star Wars movies. No, but really, anyone who knew this, there are spoilers. Full conversation. So we start off though in this new movie, and immediately I am more drawn in. It does give me Ari for the Dark, Goosebumps, Easy YA vibes, which I thought that was so interesting that you picked that because the cast is a lot younger, and you are following kids around, and the kids are they're riding their bikes, and they find basically like these barrels, and correct me when I'm wrong, they kind of like unopen one of the barrels, the group of kids, and smoke appears, and they fake that they don't see a zombie, that they did see a zombie in them, and then we kind of cut to the other things going on. And the one kid or main kid's getting bullied during this as well.
Yeah, he's doing like some initiation with 2 other kids that are, I don't know, they're in his same age, but they look much older than him. So
they do.
Yeah, my wife was like, "How are they in the same group? Like, how are they the same age? That makes no sense."
That's Jesse, right?
Yeah, Jesse's the main kid with like the blonde hair.
Yeah, but that's the initiation, but he comes running back. He instantly knows. Everyone else just brushes it off. But that's our start of terror
so
foot.
They find like this canister that has, like a dead body in it, and it says like, "Oh, if you find this canister, call the army at this number." And Jesse's like, "Oh shit, we gotta call the fucking army." And the other kids are like, "No." So they go back home, and then the other 2 kids go back to the capsule, and then they fuck with it, and they release all the gas. Right
it has
of course, a graveyard.
Yes. And then we go to our graveyard, or our grave diggers.
Oh yeah, these guys. Did you notice? Because you watched Return of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
Did you see that it was the same characters? Well, not the
same
characters, same actors. Yeah.
So the 2 leads of the original. I'm sorry, I usually have the things right next to me. 2 leads of the original, or in the original and die, are 2 characters in the new one where they're grave robbers.
Yeah.
And they're, they're not just like cameos or anything. They're full characters. They're just playing new guys. Like this part 2, you'd easily tell that this was, hey, we have a zombie movie, we have IP, we're just going to put them together.
Mm-hmm.
That is, that's what's going on here in this movie. It's not fully like Troll 2, where they just slap Troll 2 on it, but
Troll 2.
There's no like continuity of like the first one you're seeing.
Nah, this is.
I think
I think this takes into account like part 1 just didn't exist. I think.
Yeah.
Because like, they don't really reference part 1. They say like, "Oh, we got this trioxin shit," but that's about it.
I think the doctor is shared. One character is the same character.
I know that the 2 grave robbers are the same.
Yeah, so the grave robbers are there, and my one question is, why did his girlfriend go with him to the grave? And he's just like, yeah, just wait outside.
She's the getaway. I don't know. The part that I don't get. Okay, so we switch over to these 2 guys, and they do some grave robbing. They go into like a mausoleum, and they, get their bolt cutters and they cut off people's fingers so they get the rings and stuff. Like one guy wants to cut off a head to keep it or something. It's really weird.
He's ready to chop that off. He's like, "Does she want a ring?" And he's like, "Oh yeah." And their payout before I know you it should be red flag anyway. He's like, "Well, you want to make $100,000?"
I don't know. It's not good business.
Funny. Anyway,
I'm not sure what she's doing there because they're like, "Oh, we'll be back in a couple of hours," but they just like sit there and they don't do anything, and then it's nighttime, and I don't know. That's the one good thing that I don't get about the movie.
That's why she's waiting around, and not even to say like because it stands out like she's also like they dressed her like she's done up to go out too, so she's waiting around very like this pretty woman dressed up. It looks like she's going out for the night. She's waiting around a graveyard for her boyfriend and his grave robbing buddy. And they're waiting, and but while we're waiting on that, because we do lose Jesse and the kid for a minute. Like this is really the three we're gonna focus on.
Yeah.
The guy's grave robbing. The zombie smoke comes through, and this is also where logic gets questioned because the smoke and that infect them without a bite because they're like, my skin's itchy.
Yeah, I think that's what they're going for, but like, so when they unleash the smoke on the stuff, like it's in this like sewer grate, kind of like in It, leading down to the sewer where the It is. This like it comes out of the sewer and goes up and over into the cemetery where it gets into the soil, so it goes down and raises up the dead. And they're sitting in a mausoleum just eating sandwiches and shit. And then they see like the mist come in and they're like, "Oh, this makes my skin feel bad." Like,
yeah,
I don't know why. Like, what's the radius on the stuff? I'm not sure.
we're not gonna beg too many questions, but this also really feels like a really good episode too of like look wise of Tales from the Crypt.
Yeah, I haven't watched a lot of Tales from the Crypt. We're considering like moving on to that one at some point.
I recommend. I mean, just like that's in that same vein. It's just what you're doing now, just with like boobs in every episode. Like that's really there was like a mandate in every episode of Tales from the Crypt. Like you need.
It was on HBO, man. Like,
you need to say fuck 3 times, and you need 4 pairs of titties. But it's a good show. There's some great episodes. I love that show. But there's some things in this that really remind me of that with like just the makeup and the like body parts falling off of some of the and that's a fun thing about Return of the Living Dead is even when we see our first zombies, right? Like they all look so different. Like it's like they really wanted to budget towards each one, and then some like I don't know, just staying in the background will blur you out a little bit.
They do that though. They do that. It's kind of like it's not like in Day of the Dead where like every single zombie had its own makeup and
no.
They paid everybody $1 to be on set to be made up as zombies and stuff. It's a little bit. A lot of the zombies are people that have like been in the ground for a while, so they just kind of like put mold on them and ugly them up a little bit here and there.
There's some fun, and I'm jumping around at the moment, but there's some fun like skeleton like gags in this because skeletons aren't scary.
Yeah.
And this movie isn't scary. I mean, no one should even put this on. It's a horror comedy with a heavy emphasis on the comedy.
Yeah, it's definitely more comedy, especially compared to like Return of the Living Dead Part 1, which I think was a little more horror than comedy, but it was kind of there too.
And then so we do get Jesse like running back home, and he tells his sister who and her boyfriend like we got to call the army. And this is where I'm a little confused. I know I have the Wikipedia am I right? Because I have a note on here. He's dressed like we're going food shopping in like April 2020 with like the mask with the N95 on, and like he goes back to the barrel site.
Right. Yeah. So before he can get the number for the army, the kids like push him away from it. So he goes back home and he like sits there and he thinks about it for a second, and then he masks up like he's ready for a pandemic. And he gets back in that sewer grate and he gets the number, and that's where he sees the first zombie.
Yeah,
which is Tarman, who was in the first movie too.
Okay, I missed. It was so back to back, and sorry. Now we're he returns home, and the sister. I don't know if you noticed this. she's dressed just like Ned Flanders.
Are you talking about after she's done jazzercising?
Yeah, we do get a jazzercise moment. Apologies, we get a jazzercise.
I was going to say she looks like she's 35, so that that syncs up.
Yeah, I mean it's the same green and pink like collared shirt, and all my notes just read Ned Flanders.
I love it.
Ned Flanders has the worst sisterly instincts, like as a note. She does. But and then this is kind of like where the basis of the movie is. This is when we start getting the zombies come, and then kind of everyone's just running at point to point.
Yeah, the one thing that I don't care for about this movie is that, especially with the grave robbers and his girlfriend, who I think his name is Brenda or something, most of the lines that they deliver are them just screaming, which can be great. Like they do a good job, I guess, but that Brenda, she just screams every line. I'm not.
No, there's some bad they're like there's some bad actors. This is a good like this is like I said, first time watching it. Like it's definitely now gonna be in. We're nowhere near finished talking about it, but in my Halloween rotation, October movie month rotation, or hey, we want something spooky, but it's starter horror, like
yeah,
and
that's a perfect film for that.
I think that's where this stands. I think this stands as a good beer movie too. You probably can make a great drinking game to it. So
I will say,
oh, sorry.
And that's okay. When Netflix was really new and you could only get the DVDs through the mail, I rented this movie. So this was probably like 12 years ago or more now. And this was the first movie. I had a little bit of insomnia back then. It was the first movie I watched, and then I watched the entire movie again with like the director's commentary in it.
Oh yeah, I meant to do that. So if you have
they say some good stuff.
I purchased the Scream Factory release of it. And I was like, just have been doing it more for this show to listen to commentary, and I didn't have the time. So apologies. So if you do have anything you remember of it, please share.
Absolutely.
Sometimes the commentaries, even on those special releases, are like just pulled from an old one they did, and they don't.
I want to say with the commentary, it was mostly the kid that played Jesse that was doing it too. So it was like, oh, I remember in this scene, you can clearly see I'm a body double right here.
I believe that too. Like a lot of mistakes probably thrown everywhere. It looks like they did one take for every scene. I'm like, okay, next, let's move on. Like a lot of charm.
Film. Yeah, that's how to do it.
And then one of the bullies, though, the one who looks like the kid from It.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, he gets
like
turned.
Never mind. I don't
Billy?
remember his name. His name's Billy.
We follow him home, and he turns into a zombie. He's the only kid who's in the zombie, and he murks his mother.
He does, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm jumping a little bit, but he kills his mom, and they turn, and that's where like you're gonna run away, and we were talking about the grave robbers and the girlfriend. And I love how she doesn't get turned. Like they just meet up, find each other. Where like in that scenario, there were still a lot of zombies still out. Like she would have just ate it. Like she would have been bit.
Yeah. Oh, you're talking about like when they're still in the cemetery and
they're they're still running away. Like because we have them running, and then they meet up to a house where they kind of pick up an old guy.
Yes. Yeah. So the zombies come out, like Jesse's like, holy shit, there's zombies here. I gotta go tell my sister and call the police and all that stuff. He gets home, and that's when the zombies start like attacking his neighborhood. And they're like, like the boyfriend's car gets smashed because the grave robbers steal it, and they run it into the pole while he's trying to call the army. And then the phone just goes dead. So they're like, fuck, we gotta go into town. We gotta get a car. We gotta call the army. So they're like, well, fuck, who's got a car? And they're like, oh, the old doctor across the street, he's got one. Let's go to his house.
I kept this car clean for 40 years or something and not a dent. And so they grab him, and that's what it feels like. It feels very like there's this line, and then we're just picking up different people along the way. Because we kind of don't see Jesse, as this is Joey. We kind of don't see Joey until the grave robbers get to Joey's house.
Yeah, it has that kind of like split, stories going on until they converge, which is fun. I like that.
That's I think where the most fun of this movie is like the grave robbers really do steal the movie from like a character standpoint. They're funny.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be real. we could easily tell they're turning into zombies, like everyone's hanging around them. And it's like, I'll stay with you. It'll be fine.
You can see like their makeup gets progressively more like sweaty and stuff. Too.
Yeah. And they
just sit there and complain.
They last pretty long.
They do, yeah. I mean, hey, all they got was a light misting of it, so they got to slowly die.
Yeah, they last pretty long. But then we have we're really in like, please, if I'm missing anything, fill me in. I have this thing next to me. And then they meet up, get to the house with all of them because they're like, let us in. And then I know there's mobs of zombies coming. I mean, that's where we're at. They didn't get the car just yet.
Yeah. So the grave robbers, they just jump into the boyfriend's car, they smash the telephone pole, and then they like try to get in there and like, oh, help us, you know. And then the zombies start breaking into Jesse's house with his sister and the boyfriend there.
Yeah. And the boyfriend, he's such a dweeb.
Yeah.
Like the sister and the boyfriend, like I kind of hate that they lasted the whole time.
Yeah, right.
Like I'm not gonna say this movie has any protagonists.
I mean, I feel like the main one's Jesse, which I think the kid did a great job. I with the film, especially because it was filmed primarily at night, like they had a lot of things that they had to work with this kid to have him as the main.
Sure.
Because I'm pretty sure there were laws where like they couldn't film past a certain time period, and the whole movie's at night. So for what they did, like they did a really great job. I think he did a really.
Oh, he's
a good actor.
It's just fun to like. He lives and like his sister and the boyfriend, and then the boyfriend's more caring than the sister. The sister like could care less that that her brother like ran out there to go like defile zombies until she has to worry about him.
Yeah, she's like, my parents would be so pissed. I guess I gotta go take care of.
Yeah,
like, I feel like that's super stereotypical, like 1988 sister, though. You know,
definitely. Like, why do I have to take care of you? There's a zombie attack. And he's 7.
She reminds me of the sister from Troll 2 a little bit.
She does have and with the aerobics dance.
Oh yeah,
yeah. They should.
I will say I've only ever seen Troll 2 Rift from the Mystery Science Theater 3000 guys. Never seen the movie. Like
I've watched it a little too much. No, there's a really good document. There's a really good documentary for anyone listening called Best Worst Movie, and it was made by the kid actor. About the Troll 2 fandom and like kind of how it shaped people's lives. It's a really good movie for the documentary. Troll 2, not a good movie. But same vibes though. The same vibes. This also movie gave me a lot of actual legitimately good movie. The Burbs. It gave me a lot of Burbs vibes too.
Yeah. I just seen that movie for the first time a couple of years ago. I liked it.
Yeah, really underrated. Like Joe Dante, Tom Hanks.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're like, I don't know. This is where I get a little lost in the movie. Like they kind of just come up with a plan. Now they got to get out of there. Like the army's around and the army doesn't give a shit.
Yeah. So
the army's been ready. That's one thing I failed to mention. The army's been ready to go.
Yeah, the thing about this movie is that they kind of don't explain things enough a little bit there, because Jesse calls the army, but the telephone lines get disconnected, so he isn't able to like tell him where he is or something.
Yeah.
But they get the car from the doctor, so they add in a new character. They add in the doctor, who's kind of like the drunk old man. He's great. I love the doctor.
Yeah.
And then they are like, okay, well, let's get out of town. But the movie doesn't really tell you that they've already evacuated the entire town. So the way it tells you is they drive around and they're like, well, there's nobody around. I wonder what's up.
I thought they all turned into zombies.
I don't think that's what it is.
No, I
think some have, but I think they evacuated.
I think you're right. But truly, if only ever watching it one time.
Yeah.
It just feels like, oh, they're all out there in the crowd. Brains.
Yeah.
One of the zombies, I have a note here, and I don't remember where it is in the movie. That's just what's going to happen. Sorry, guys.
No, you're good.
Looks like a Goomba from the Super Mario movies.
Yes. Are you talking about the one in the crypt?
Yeah, little head, big body, and it's so good.
It's perfect.
This movie also likes to put every man in a vest. That was another. I know I have a lot of clothing talk in this episode, but
I wanted to wear a vest while I was watching it.
A lot of vests. They're all in vests.
I felt out of place.
But I do love how too, like when we see more of the zombies and everything, they all shuffle around like a bunch of drunks.
Mm-hmm.
Even though we're saying they're running, like they do kind of walk around like people like hammered in the kitchen.
There's a weird moment, like so when the zombies first come out, they're all walking, they're all slow, like typical George Romero zombies. But then towards like the middle to end of the movie is when they start running, and I don't know if that is showing us that those are like the newer zombies, the ones that haven't been in the ground. I don't know. It doesn't really explain.
I mean, from everything that's unfortunately, there's not much like easy like notes to pull from places about this movie. And that's why you're probably listening to this episode. So go fuck myself. Is the director really didn't want to be there? It sounded like
I can see that.
Apparently he wanted to make he only wanted to make a horror movie, and they wouldn't let him.
I kind of get that vibe a little bit.
So
yeah.
So it could just be something like that. Like it was truly a man checked out.
I could believe that. Yeah, and I don't know if you've ever seen any of the other Return of the Living Dead movies, but
only
if you
one
haven't,
and two.
I suggest stopping there. The rest are garbage. The rest are very bad.
Only 1 and 2, and then I'm gonna do a little bit of zombie deep dive with recently getting Dawn and A Day and all that stuff.
Beautiful.
But I do I don't know. I don't know how half these people would have survived because they're all just so dumb. Sorry. So
they are. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're still. Oh.
When the smartest person in the group is like a 9-year-old, 11-year-old boy, you got problems.
Yeah.
You have a literal doctor in your group, and the kid
because they're just dying. Because they're still like where we're at with the audience kind of knowing is we're still driving to the next location. It does feature one of but the guys are dying in the back, kind of, and this is why I think they're so dumb. I think her name's Brenda, who's the
girlfriend to one of the grave robbers.
The girlfriend of one of the grave robbers. She's just holding on to him as he's turning, but he's not even turning yet. But it features one of the best gags is the cousin it hand gag.
Mm-hmm. Oh yes, yeah. So they're getting out of the neighborhood, and there's a zombie on the roof of their sports car that they took from the doctor, and they don't realize that. So they're like, the guys in the backseat, they're dying a little bit, and they're like, oh, why don't you just open up the window, get some air? So he opens up the window, and there's a zombie on the roof who like grabs him, and then they roll up the window, and it chops off his hand, and then you get some fun.
It's fun because it flips, and the hand does a really great gag of like flips the car off. Like there's a lot of those moments in here. And then have we seen yet or so? Because it happens twice. Kind of like the hand where a head's just cut off and it's allowed to just kind of talk.
Yeah, that part's weird too. So the grave robbers, when they're in the crypt, they actually do cut off the head of a corpse. They stuff it in the bag, and then when they get to the house, they're like, "Oh shit, my bag's moving!" And then it is a talking head of like Southern accent talking head for some reason.
I think they just had fun with it. I mean, that's all it is. I think it's just here's a gag because this is almost movies more like zombie gags place to place.
Mm-hmm.
So at one point we're driving, and then we do lose our grave robbers unfortunately at a certain point. But they get they might be going a little too ahead. We get to the truck, the meat truck, with them throwing the meat out, and that's another thing. That's a great bit, but it's not another thing that's not really well explained to us as the audience. Like I rewound a few times to be like, did I miss something? Because we lose the old man out. I'm sorry. We lose the old man. They just cut his character at one point. Mm-hmm. He's in the building with the booze.
Yeah, they're just I'm jumping. Don't really have anything to do with them.
But they never really. So the three now are taking all the zombies to the power plant.
Yeah. So what happens is, at one point they hit a zombie with their car, and it flings into a like a lit up sign or something, and it gets electrocuted and it kills it. They don't really explain it in the movie, but they realize that's how they can kill the zombies for good.
I want to give this movie a little credit about killing zombies. Is I like that they do acknowledge how to kill zombies, or like we saw this it's not in the movie when they try to shoot the head.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they shoot the zombies and they're the invincible kind, so they just kind of get right back up.
And I respect that, because the more and more, I'm probably talking about this all our episodes, none with zombies, you're my first zombie guest, is when a movie doesn't reference like the thing that's going on, being part of pop culture. Did you no spoilers, did you see like Midnight Mass at all on Netflix?
Nope.
Okay, anyway, there's the thing that's going on in that, and it's modern day. Someone would say, oh, this is just like this really popular literature X. I'm being really vague, so, no spoilers completely. But, so I like that this movie at least is like, no, these are zombies, and we're supposed to shoot them in the head, even if it doesn't work. Yeah. It goes, well, it'll happen in the movies, and like, this isn't the movies.
I like that too. It's a little cryptic, because I think the only way to kill them in the first movie was like incinerate them, and that just kind of causes more problems for them. So this one, like, it shows you like electricity. If they get electrocuted, it'll kill them.
I failed to mention electricity did bring them to life.
In
this one, we had a little like of the clouds opening with the electricity. Didn't? I thought when the barrel opened, we had a little like storm happen, and then.
Oh, you know what it is that in the first movie, because it does rain in this movie. So in the first movie, what happens is they have this zombie, and then they incinerate it, and then the smell, I don't want to say the smell, like the stink clouds of incinerated zombies get into the rain, and that pools down, and then it goes into the graveyard, and that brings the dead back to life. Like, it just
I got my movie
fed
mixed.
many.
No,
it's okay. That does kind of happen in this one too, though, because like they release the trioxin, and then it starts raining over the cemetery and stuff.
That's okay.
So it's kind of the same. Yeah.
So, but we are bringing them. They're throwing the meat out.
Yeah. So they try to escape. They try to go to like the town's edge, and they get blocked off by army guys because they've already barricaded the city because they know there's a zombie outbreak, and they just start shooting at them in the ambulance that they're driving, because they went to the hospital at one point too.
Yeah.
So they're like, well, fuck, what the hell are we supposed to do, right? So they decide to go to the meat factory and get a bunch of beef brains, as the boxes are labeled, and they start just chucking it into the streets, and they lead the zombies into the power plant, where they try to set up something so that they can electrocute them all at once, because they got like puddles of water from the rain from the night, and they turn off the power, and they start, putting wires down, or I don't know.
They're really liberal with what they think is safe to touch at the power plant. That's not going to kill them.
They're like, oh, we turned the power off. We should
turn it off, pull some cores out, and then like one of my notes is like, oh, they really that's just that easy to shut down the power.
Yeah. Yep. Power for the whole town is just one lever, just like Frankenstein. Like, whatever. No big deal.
And then one really key thing to mention, though, is they have a walkie-talkie, and they are in cahoots with the old doctor.
Yeah. So I think the plan is that the doctor stays inside, and he flips the switch back on once the zombies are like in the water, so it'll fry them all.
This is the four of them driving.
Yeah.
Or in the truck, but the boyfriend does leave the walkie-talkie out. He puts it down, and so the old guy is like, I'm just gonna get drunk, and pulls out a bottle, and it's like, sweet.
Yeah.
He doesn't actually drink it.
No, he doesn't.
But he's real close.
He's almost there. Yeah. So what happens is, they lock the zombies out, and they're setting everything up, but the original boy zombie, the original Billy, he's back, and he is apparently much smarter than the other zombies, because he climbs the fence, and he jumps over, and he hits the button, and he opens up the gate, and all the zombies come in.
It's so funny. What's funny about Billy too is he's such a slow transformation of looking like a zombie.
Yeah, he is.
They just put a little like furrowed brow on him, and that's about it.
Yeah, it's good enough.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah.
It's fun though, because like you got Billy, and then Jesse, the little kid. They all get trapped in the ambulance, and Jesse's the only one that can fit through a window, so it's kind of like up to him to save the day. And you get that fun like, Jesse versus the other kid zombie.
Yeah,
like,
it's
fighting the bully.
To me, that's when this movie's at its best. Is when I get to like watch the kids, the Goonies-ness of the movie.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for like kids doing amazing things, or like Final Girls and stuff. Like, I'm a sucker for that shit. So I loved it.
And the kid, he takes the screwdriver.
Yeah.
and he rams it
awesome.
through it. Like that's some of the best parts are just the practicality of like dismemberment of the zombies of this movie, and they all look goofy. Like that's the point. But yeah, the kid Jesse drams a screwdriver through his mouth, so he's like, all right, whatever, and he thinks he gets him, and Jesse, who's no shy of being 9 years old, says that must be the power switch. Turns the power on, electrocutes all the zombies, but guess who comes right back? Billy, and they have another kind of like fight to the death.
Yeah. Billy comes back and he like smiles with that screwdriver, like,
yeah.
Billy, shut the fuck up. Yeah.
Until the old guy comes back, right, and kind of gets Billy off of him.
Yeah, he takes a bottle and smashes it over a child's zombified head.
I would too.
Yeah, right.
I would too.
Fuck off, Billy.
And the sequence, the sequence of them all like electrocuting is so long and fun because they take their time to show us all these different types of zombies.
Yeah, that's a good part.
Especially the Michael Jackson zombie.
Yeah, the Michael Jackson zombies. Pretty iconic for this movie anyway. Yeah, I gotta say it's funny though because that electricity effect, that like blue electricity that they used for all the electrified zombies, apparently was really expensive for them to do.
Really? Yeah. And I feel that was like the number one. That effect to me looks like just a par for the course.
Yeah, it's like, kind of like what ages the movie a little bit.
Yeah, like that electricity is what you see in like. I'm just gonna keep rattling off bad movies. Like in like Trick or Treat.
Oh, I haven't seen that yet.
The heavy metal. Not the anthology movie. There's a heavy metal horror movie from the 80s.
Oh, okay.
About a rocker comes back possessed as a school like teen. It's not good. It's famous for having Ozzy Osbourne and Gene Simmons in it. Anyway, but that movie 84 when it uses that electricity and it's real low. So that's surprising that was expensive.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember like the budget of the movie. Like I got Wiki pulled up here. It's $6.2 million, and I think that was the most expensive thing about the movie was adding in that electrical effect.
I guess that makes sense. Like we kind of said before, a lot of our effects and prosthetics, like they really, it's almost purposely cheap to make it part of the humor, which is better than us. Which is better than trying to convince us it's scary. And I really like the soundtrack. I really think there's some fun music through this whole movie.
Interestingly, so this movie has, I don't know if they got copyright problems or something, but some of the music in this is not the same as it was in the original release.
Gotcha. So I think, I'm reading it right now. Bunch of plus stuff. I believe the version I watched, the Scream Factory version, is the original release with all the music restored.
The original is much better music. Like I'm a huge fan of like 80s and I love listening to like video game music from the 80s and 90s and stuff. Like I love the music from this movie in the original release. I just rented it on Amazon Prime.
Okay.
This Saturday, right before we recorded, because I wanted to watch it again. And the music was different than what
it was. Okay, so yeah, get yourself that Scream Factory because Wiki tells me that it's the version you want to watch.
Yeah. I can't remember if they changed it for Return of the Living Dead Part 1, 2 or not, but
I watched that on HBO. HBO Max has it, so I couldn't tell. That have the same thing. That was the one consistent style. We're gonna keep metal.
Yeah, that one is very metal. I like that.
And yeah. Screwdriver, and then it does have a weak ending because it kind of just goes their way.
Yeah, I don't know how they grouped up all the zombies, especially considering in an earlier part of the movie they stabbed one through the chest and like left him there. So like you got some cleanup to do, guys.
Yeah, and the army comes through and they're like, we're gonna take over from here, and that's kind of the end. It's not. I almost would, especially with the little kids, my morbid sense of mind would have been like, let's do another nuke.
I hear that. I hear you.
Right? Like, and then we could just reset the clock for 3. But yeah, man, I don't know. Like, they got all the zombies because they definitely, you could allude to like There's still more out there.
The Army's got it, man. Like, do the cover, Joe.
The Army got it. Yeah.
Army's take care of it, even though they didn't. They had to have,
They
a
turned them
ragtag group
away.
of some teenagers and an old ass man had to do all of their work.
The teenagers, the kids, the old man, everyone talked to, they went to the Army twice. One part I did fail to mention, and that I did find really fun was when they showed all the zombies riding around in the Army Jeep.
Yeah.
So the music, and like that's the fun part of this movie, I think, is when we get to see zombies. The zombies have little bits of personality, and like kind of like Billy, and like them driving, like that's where I laughed at the comedy.
It's good. And there's one part where they're in the ambulance and they call out to the hospital because they're trying to see if anybody else is there. And a zombie picks up and he was like, "Yeah, I'm here. Come to the hospital." And they're like, "Hold on, who's the president?" And he's like, Harry Truman?
Yeah, that's a good bit.
Jesse's like, "Who the fuck's Harry Truman?"
That's a great bit.
Yeah, I love that stuff.
So, just a few fun facts, and anything I missed, please bring up. Is this very much should be and could have been a PG-13 movie?
Oh, I think so.
Yeah. Apparently, it's the hospital scene where the zombie shot in half is what bumped it.
Really? That of all things?
Yeah, but that's at least what, guys, take it with a grain of salt. This is what Wikipedia is telling me.
Oh, okay.
Not Wikipedia. What IMDb trivia was telling me.
Okay.
No, Wikipedia's reception and trivia is just it has a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes, which
it does. How dare it?
Offered 20 critics, which is kind of a lot for an older movie for it to pull. Which which annoying. I did a little deep dive into that, and like we don't read shows on this podcast or care what. That they were newer reviews, like they were newer critics reviewing the Blu-ray or DVD release, which is more questioning to me because, especially like a horror nerd picking up the Shout Factory movie and reviewing this for like Bloody Disgusting is not going to give this a 0. Like there's a lot of fun in here to be had.
Yeah, I can't imagine any. Like this isn't The Room level of terrible or Troll 2. Like this is a fun movie.
No. Yeah, this joins I just clicked on 0%. That's anything stand out to me. This joins Staying Alive. Problem Child. That's surprising. 0.
Okay.
Super Baby Geniuses 2. National Lampoon's Gold Diggers.
Okay, sure, that's a thing.
I'm actually sad to admit I've seen more of these films that are
You're a Baby Geniuses fan, aren't you?
A big we're Baby Geniuses heads on Flyover State of Fear. The other one I would like to shout out, Nick Cage's Stolen, classic film. Anyway, and Gotti. There's plenty more, but so I was surprised to see though this make this like list. But once again, that means nothing, especially for older movies. If anyone listening, if you're looking for reviews, any of those aggregator sites aren't doing you a service for older movies, especially with what their rating is.
Yeah.
But and the one thing I want to I mentioned earlier. Another fun fact I had is just it wasn't written as a sequel to Return of the Living Dead. It says producer Tom Fox was interested in Winderhorn's story, who was the director, but it would only finance it if he agreed to make it part of the series. And I think that's where you have some of the disconnect, and it's pretty well documented about that. It sounds of like actors felt the director was disinterested and all this stuff. My other thing I want to bring up, and it was not even trying to be rude. I was really happy that the end credits just ended with the Monster Mash.
Right.
This different rendition was excellent. I listened to the whole thing because I love that song.
It's a great song.
Yeah. So, not saying the end credits was my favorite part, but I did like that it was the Monster Mash.
It's okay. That might be something that's only in, well, maybe not only in, but the end credits for mine was a song called like Bite to Bite or something.
Oh, no, it is. It's the mash, the monster.
It's funny though. That must be one of the songs that they changed for the, not for the re-release. I think that's what it was originally was, the
Probably.
Monster Mash. Because the credits came up and I was like, one of them was the Monster Mash. And I was like, I don't fucking remember hearing the Monster Mash at all.
Yeah, it was like a heavy, and it's like a not heavy metal. It's like a metal version too. It's like a re-recorded. Like that's why I was like, oh, I want to put this on like a Halloween playlist and not just
See, I want to go on YouTube and listen to the original score of the music for this movie. Because
check that. Let me know.
I knew it was much better.
You definitely pick up that Shout Factory. It's like $15. It's well worth it. So anything we didn't really cover. Sorry, like some of it went off the rails a little bit of what happened. I feel like in the movie.
I think it was great. I think we covered pretty much everything. We didn't get to the hospital much, but like that's kind of the slow part of the movie anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. No. And thanks for choosing this because it's one of those things where like I'm glad I discovered it and like or you picked it and we discovered it and. Even with its problems, this is fun enough to throw it in a rotation. We don't have to sit there and be quiet and watch the movie. We could talk during it and be like, "Oh yeah, the zombie got its jaw broken off."
I think it's a fun line between horror and comedy where it's not like there's spooky things in it, but there's also like funny things, and it's not just making fun of itself.
As you said, your wife could handle it. My wife can handle it. Do you? Oh no. Do you think this movie? I feel like this movie had a lot of influence on. Do you remember the early South Park Halloween episodes?
I do.
Like the pink eye when they all become zombies in town. I feel like this movie and South Park, that special, that was inspired by this movie.
I can definitely see it. I will say I haven't seen that special since like 1998, but I vividly remember it because. I remember being in like third grade and everybody talking about it and then watching it and everything. It was kind of a thing right then. But yeah, I can see that.
No, that's one of those ones. It's in that Halloween rotation, and Halloween is 2 months for me.
Oh yeah,
it's
been the last 3 years for me, man.
The start of media. Yeah, this whole room is just horror. So yeah, so that's Return of the Living Dead, everyone. Return of the Living Dead Part 2. Where I guess just where could the people find you, Courtland?
Yeah, so I do a podcast, Up All Night, a horror anthology podcast. You can find me on pretty much every podcast player. I think I'm out on at least all. Yeah,
we'll have
been doing it for a while.
We'll have all your links below.
I do Instagram. I make memes, videos, stuff to promote Are You Afraid of the Dark. We do. I don't know if you've seen any of them, but we do a condensed version of episodes. So every episode from season 6 and 7, we do 1-minute videos of them where we do we take the clips, we add lines in there, we add our own sound effects and stuff just to make it funny. Awesome. And yeah, they're a lot of fun.
I gotta follow you on Instagram. I only follow on Twitter, and one has not popped up. I've been following for about a year on Twitter.
I will. I can start re-uploading them for you. I have mega mixes of them on YouTube. They're about 12 minutes long.
No worry, I'll just gotta check it out. And as always, you could find me here on the Flyover State of Film Network. You check our recent episodes of Flyover State of Fear. You could find me probably being the absolute worst over at Twitter at Chendingo1 and Flyover State of Pod. All right, stay frightful, everyone.
Welcome to Flyover State of Fear.